All right, hello again to my Math 950 students. We are now going to talk about section 6.2, and we're still learning about percents and fractions. So let's review. So remember, percents are out of 100, so 100 parts, and they are always written as that number over 100. So then as we go to write percents as fractions, then like 65% here, we can write as 65 over 100 because remember, percents are out of 100. So when we have 65 out of 100, that can then be simplified because they are both multiples of 5. So we can divide them both by 5 and end up having 13 out of 20 would be the same as, or would be 65% as a fraction. And then if you also, in your calculator, just going to show you this right here, if you did 13 divided by 20 in a calculator, that's why it brings up 0.65, because remember that as a percent, we multiply by 100 is 65%. So that's why they are equivalent. Okay, so moving on, 84%. So if we wanted to write that as a fraction, then we would write 84 over 100. And then we would simplify that. They're both even. So I'm going to divide them both by 2. That'll be 42 out of 50. Divide by 2 again. That would be 21 out of 25. And then those do not have a common factor. So then 21 out of over 25 is 84% as a fraction. And like I showed you before, you could always check it in your calculator by dividing 21 divided by 25 in your calculator, and that's where we get 0.84, which is 84%. Okay, so next one, 225%. So we have 225, we write the percent over 100, and then we simplify this. We can divide them both by 25. Let's do that because that'll be faster. So if I have $2.25, how many quarters do I have? That's what I like to think when I'm dealing with 25. So that's going to be 9 over 100 divided by 25 is 4. So then 225% would be 9/4. And like I said, check that here by going 9 divided by 4, and that's 2.25, which remember 2.25 as a percent multiplied by 100. So then it'd be 225%. Sometimes you get percents that aren't nice whole numbers. So if that happens, you need to make them a nice whole number. So for this example where we have 20.5, so they first wrote 20.5%, wrote it as 20.5 over 100, but then we, like I said, we want to get that whole number in the numerator. So we're going to multiply it by 10, and that's going to move the decimal over one spot, but you need to multiply the entire fraction by the same value, not just the numerator, by 10. So then we'd add a 0 to 100, right? And that's how they got 205 out of 1,000. And then that can be simplified some more, divided by 5, and they got 41 out of 200 would be the final answer. So basically we have to make it a whole number in the numerator and then simplify. So let's look at one right here. Well, so 17.5%, that's the same as 17.5%. right? So then if we write that as a fraction, that would be 17.5 over 100. So to make the numerator a whole number, we got to multiply by 10. So we're going to times the numerator and denominator by 10. So then the numerator becomes 175 over 100 times 10 is 1,000. So then we have 175 over 1,000, and then we can simplify that. I'm going to use my quarter trick again, divide it by 25. So how many quarters do I have? How many quarters do I have if I have $1.75? That would be 7. And then if I have $10, it's going to be what, 40 quarters? Yeah, right? Hope I'm doing that right. Yeah. So 7 out of 40. And then, again, you can check this by going 7 divided by 40 in your calculator. And so that is going to be 0.175. Well, is that the same thing as 17.5%? Well, if we multiply this by 100, then yeah, it would be 17.5%. So then we know we're right. So 7 out of 40 is the correct fraction. Okay, moving on, we're almost done. So in the book, it shows how to write a fraction as a percent by solving a proportion. So in the book, it shows 4 out of 5 equals x over 100. And then you can cross multiply like that. So then you can get 5 times x is 5x equals 4 times 100 is 400. And then solving it that way, and you should get 80. So that is one way to find out what 4/5 is as a percent. The other way, though, that I would do, but again, either one is fine, is I would just divide 4 divided by 5, and the calculator is 0.8, right? So when you do 4 divided by 5, you're like, okay, that's a decimal. Then how do I make it a percent? Well, then I multiply it by 100. So I move the decimal 2 places to the right, and that would be 80%. So there's 2 different ways to write a fraction as a percent. Let's do another one. So 5/8, doing it what I think is easier way is 5, well, not easier, just makes more sense, common sense type of thing. 5 divided by 8 is 0.625. And then we make that a percent by multiplying it by 100. So then that would be 62.5%. And that's what 5/8 is as a percent. Like I said, if you did the proportion way and you like that, you could go 5 out of 8 equals x over 100, because that means what part of 100 is 5/8. And then we cross multiply, 8x equals 500, divide by 8. Oops, sorry, I was thinking 40 and that's not right. Anyway, and that's where we get the 62.5, okay? So hopefully, let's see, I asked a question there for you guys to answer, but and there's some tables here in the PowerPoint that I'll upload to the notes that just has shortcuts of what a percent is as a decimal and as a fraction. So it's kind of a shortcut way to look up common fractions or common percents, like 3/5, what's that as a decimal, what's that as a percent. So if you want, you can use these notes on any quiz or exam if you'd like. So hopefully that makes sense for section 6.2. And if you have any questions, please let me know. All right, good luck.